in the AP?
Corey, we've learned a lot in the last few days and weeks about non-disclosure agreements, both on the Trump campaign, the White House, and political organizations. So first, could you say if you've signed a non-disclosure agreement with the president, number one, and then number two, does the practice of having non-disclosure agreements, particularly for people who serve in the administration, but also on the campaign, undermine the credibility of people who serve on the president's behalf, in that they are contractually prohibited from being critical of the president in many of these cases?
So when I joined the campaign, which was January of 2015, I actually signed a non-disclosure agreement which was with the precursor to the campaign, just for legal reasons, because the campaign didn't even exist at the time. And as I think you all know, I wrote a book, and there was no pushback on the book, and I think my book was a very honest assessment of my time on the campaign trail, good, bad, or indifferent. And I was never contacted by the Trump team or the Trump attorneys who said, you can't write a book, you can't do any of these things. I was very honest. I didn't have to submit my book or proposal or any of those things to them for their review or their consideration. As it relates to a non-disclosure agreement for government employees, and I'm not an attorney, just to be clear, I don't know if they're valid whatsoever, other than the disclosing of classified information, which is a crime in and of itself and has nothing to do with a non-disclosure agreement. I don't know how you hold a public employee, a government employee, accountable to a non-disclosure agreement. I don't know if that's enforceable whatsoever. I have no idea. And I think the issue is it has been a long-term business practice of the Trump administration, the Trump organization, to have non-disclosure agreements, and it's something that they brought to the administration. I don't know who signed them. I don't know who didn't sign them. I've never seen one because I didn't work for the government in any capacity there. But I don't know if they're enforceable. And what I think it is probably the president wanting to bring a business executive experience to the government, and that was one of the things that he brought with him, which was, this is something that I did in the private sector and something I am wanting to implement in the government sector. I just don't know if they're enforceable.
When somebody who signed it is prohibited under a non-disparagement clause from saying anything critical of the president. Doesn't that impeach everything else they say?
And I don't look. I don't know how enforceable any of them are, to be honest with you. Traditionally, non-disclosure agreements and non-compete agreements are so that you can't steal business from one company and take it to another company, or you have proprietary information as a business owner that would preclude you from going to a competitor. I don't know how you can stop somebody from saying something that they want to say about somebody. Once you leave the employment of that individual, there are some rules that you've chosen to sign on to when you've started the employment, but you do have the right to free speech. You do have the right to talk to people. You have the right to publish a book if you want to, or say what you want, or pen an article. I don't know how you can stop that from happening. And the recourse seems to be through arbitration, is what seems to be, because I don't think it's a court issue. I think they go to arbitration and try and find a monetary penalty which that person would then be responsible for if they were in breach of their non-disclosure agreement. I don't know if that's been successfully used in the past, but we've now seen multiple individuals who've either signed non-disclosure agreements and broken them or completely disregarded them, and so we'll see what the enforcement mechanism is